Hey, welcome back to the farm. So we're out in the greenhouse today. We had snow this morning and ice on the trees overnight. But here we are. It's 80 degrees. The fan just turned on in the greenhouse. It has to be one of my favorite places to be now. So I told you in our last video that we were going to be coming out to the greenhouse, and there were a couple things I wanted to touch base on. You can see behind me we started a bunch of plants, and a question that has come up is, how exactly do you know when to start your plants? Well, the answer is it depends. And the reason I say it depends is because if you live in Florida or Georgia, it's going to be a very different timeline than if you live in Vermont, Connecticut, or even Minnesota. So I'm going to share with you a couple of tools, what I like to use. This is, I think you can still buy it through Seed Savers, and you can go to Clyde's website, but it's a garden planner. There's two sides. This is the spring, and this is the fall. And I don't know how much you can see in that, but it's going to tell you this red line is your average last frost date. So for Connecticut, we moved that all the way over to the 7th of June, because we can get frost right up until the 7th of June. Some years it's warmer, some it's not. So then it tells you when you need to start. Some plants, like tomatoes, you have to start farther ahead. And so if we look at tomatoes down here, you start it indoors on May 10th. To have it be put in the garden on June 7th. If you have a greenhouse or hoop house, you can back that date up to when you plan to plant in your hoop house, and then it'll tell you when to start the seeds indoors. The SI is seeds indoors, and FP is, hold on, it's been a minute, first outdoor planting dates. And then it'll show you about when to harvest, so you can stagger your planting. And then on this side, it tells you how deep, seeds per 10-foot row, distance between hills, distance between plants, and thinning. If you're using a traditional garden, all of that information is relevant. And this is a great handy tool. I have 2 or 3. The other thing, and I've mentioned this book before, is Square Foot Gardening. This is the original version. I prefer the original version, and I'm going to explain why. You can go and get the current Square Foot Gardening, and it will tell you how to build a box and how to make sterile mix so that you have no weeds. While that is helpful and definitely an advantage to gardening, this book was written so that anybody can start a garden and you don't need to buy anything extra. I'm trying to find a picture for you. Shows you basic planning of how to set your beds up. And I don't know if you can see this picture, yep, but they've got the 4 quadrants, and then there's a board, but this is directly in the ground. You don't have to build beds, you only have to till once, and you never walk in the beds, you only walk on the boards. This is a great advantage, especially in our current economy when people are wondering, how am I going to afford to do, buy all the Mel's mix, which is great for some people, but I prefer to do a more frugal method. They also have how to build a garden bed for somebody who is disabled and needs it at tabletop level. And as you read through this book, it also talks about how they've used this method in third world countries to bring gardening to areas that couldn't garden otherwise. They use rocks for the perimeter of their garden. I have gardened all different ways over my lifetime, and all of them have done well if you follow the basic principles of the gardening method. Now, this book also has when to plant, and I like this. Hold on, I've actually marked in there for when we're planting for our time zone, so I have a photocopy of this and I carry that with me as well, and it helps you with the staggered planting information. So our greenhouse, we are planning to have our garden, I'm actually sweating, it's very warm in here today. We're planning to have our garden sale for the first week in May. So we've actually started these a little bit sooner because people prefer to buy fully mature plants. As we come in here, you can see there's a lot of things up. These are marigolds, and these are our tomatoes. They're all coming up. They've got their first set of leaves, and as soon as they have their second set, that's when we'll start transplanting. Each of these 6 packs have either 2 or 3 seeds, generally, because some of the seeds you can't ever do it perfectly. But we will take and separate these out so that we have 25 of every variety. So we have 23 varieties, and we'll have 25 of each variety at least. Back here, the peppers, and we started those March 15th. And so a little over 10 days ago.
Today is the 22nd.
Today is
23rd?
the 24th.
Time flies when
Time flies, yes. So we started these on the 14th or 15th of, 14th, that's what it says. The peppers, we started a full 2 weeks before that, and you can see they're not that much further ahead. Peppers take a lot longer. They needed bottom heat. They really need warmth to grow well. We've started them every year, and every year we've struggled. This is the first year that we've had such good success getting germination, and the heat makes all the difference. So again, we will be separating those out into, do I have a, yeah. We're going to put each of the saleable plants into these small pots, and that's what we sell them in.
That's a 2x2.
A 2x2. What else do we have? We have rhubarb.
Lots of flowers. The rhubarb is over there. Mm-hmm. I can zoom in on the rhubarb. And then this one back here that's very well up, that's calendula. Did I say it right?
I think so.
Those are the marigolds. And this back here is a flower called camellia. And there's another one beyond it that I don't know what is.
I can't see it.
We'll zoom in on the tobacco. Those seeds are so tiny. They're like a speck of pepper. They're just so small. Not a peppercorn.
And not fresh ground, like the pepper that you get in a little canister that says black pepper, little tiny.
So we did 2 varieties, Connecticut broadleaf and a Havana cigar. Yep. Neither of us smoke, by the way. Yeah,
we don't smoke, but there's an interest in growing your own, and so we're going to start some plants for people. And then back here, this is kind of an experiment. We're going to be building a top bar beehive, and I want to make sure that we've got lots of flowers, and I want to have cut flowers for our farm market. So these are all wildflower mixes that we're going to have planted in areas around the beehive, and we're going to have them for sale. One of the other cool things we did this year that I haven't ever done before is start onions. These are large Spanish sweet onions. I've always bought the sets like this, and if you've never grown onions, this is one of the ones I tell people it's really an easy thing to grow. They're you can put them out even before the first frost. And that's what I usually do, but they're not as large as I'd like. They definitely do well, but they're not as large. So I bought some seeds, and these are supposed to be, a good big onion. So we'll have those. And I think that's it. Now, since we talked last time, you can see behind me, we've got one of our hydroponic systems set up. And it's doing very well. T-Rex is going to do an in-depth video talking about different ways and methods to do hydroponics. We take shortcuts.
I don't know if shortcut's quite the right word. We use stuff that's readily available so that you don't have to buy the specialty stuff, which is insanely expensive. This one will be called Hardware Store Hydroponics. I have another video, look in the description, we'll have it linked, called Mason Jar Hydroponics. This is a different style, but this is all stuff that you can go to the hardware store and pick up. Those are Y fittings for plumbing and pool noodles. So very simple to do. I'll go through the whole thing. It needs its own video, so we'll go with that.
We're gonna go down and check on the nursery.
Yep. All of these that we're passing, those are all geraniums?
Yes, those are geraniums.
Those are all geraniums.
So this is our hydroponic nursery. We start the hydroponics in these little cubes. Sometimes we do it this way.
There's rock wool, but down the wall.
Down the wall? Yes.
Yeah, right over there.
These are rock wool cubes. You can buy them. We have links to them. And we start them either in this or the Jiffy pots, depending on what we have on hand. And then we transfer them into a net cup. And they go in here to get started. These are small ones that'll get transferred, but I think you can see.
You can pull them up.
I can pull them up?
Yes, that's got a sock on it.
This has what's called a sock. So the roots, you can see the roots are starting to come out, but this hangs down into the water flow to wick water up.
Oops, hold on, they couldn't see any of that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
that's the sock, and there are the roots hanging out. And you can see we've got just pebbles on top of the rock wool cube that's in there to help with a low support. This is red Russian Kale, which is one of our favorite varieties of kale. And then this system is this is our original system that we grow bok choy in. We had a video a couple years ago, and we had a lot of feedback saying, let's see the finished product. So we're starting it up again. We have a bucket down below, and it's got a water pump in it. The water comes up, and I don't know if you can see back there.
Yep.
It goes in the back, it runs down, and then back to the bucket. So it's a recirculating system, and there's an air cell in there as well. I don't know if you can hear me all that well with the fan on. So when I checked before we came out for the video, I think we're at about 6,350 viewers. We're going for 10,000, so spread our video around, share it. We're gonna have some great giveaways when we hit 10,000. So what I would like you to do, start contacting us with questions. What do you specifically want to know, step by step? And we're gonna pick a winner at random when we hit 10,000, and we're gonna give you a goodie bag of Mefford Endeavor's products, clothespins, and a garden harvest basket. So we want to hear from you. And don't forget, subscribe and click the links below for any of the products you saw in today's video.